Hey everybody, BoatsDon'tSink, Connor here. Today I have my set review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Golden Wind, releasing today in English. Um, Pretty wild set. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to end up looking like in the meta, especially given we might have, 2 or 3 more releases after this before we get any tournaments. But for those of you looking to build it, I know this is a super popular IP. So I wanted to get this video out there and sort of talk about some of my favorite cards from the set that you guys might want to keep an eye out for. Before I jump into my top 10 though, I want to cover sort of the 2 main things that this set is good at doing. Or not really good at doing, but two big things about this set that sort of set it apart. The first is the very heavy focus on flavor among the cards in this set. It's something that every set sort of tries to do, and keep a little bit of flavor to the effects to where a card's going to have effects that fit in line with what that character did in the anime, or something like that. But this set plays super heavy into it, especially the biggest thing being all of the stand users that marker their stands, and they can summon them out so that you attack with their stands, and they can call their stands back if you want to do that, or leave them out to keep fighting. So that whole stand mechanic is really big flavor, really cool, something that not many, or not really any other sets do. And then even with the stand abilities themselves, there's lots of just wacky effects. Which, unfortunately, wacky isn't always good, but it makes the set a ton of fun to play. So if you're a big JoJo fan, I would highly recommend checking out this set and trying to build some stuff out of it. The other thing this set sort of started is new design space with level 3s. You can see the Abbacchio here in the middle, and we've been getting a lot more recently on the Japanese side of the game. We will be getting a lot more in English once they start printing them. But JoJo's was the set that sort of started this whole thing of level 3s that only have one effect, or one main effect and then maybe another small effect, where the one effect is super heavily power budgeted, right? So these are 3/2s that only have one effect but are still 10k, so it's power budgeted at 1500. Which is about 1,000 more power off of these cards than a Climax combo would normally take off. And all these effects are either Climax combos that are really aggressively costed, a lot lower than they should be, or have multiple effects combined into one. Or you'll see some characters where it's an on-play effect, but its on-play effect might be something that's a Climax combo on another card. So you're getting this really powerful on-play effect without needing a Climax, and sometimes without even paying a cost. But that might be the character's only effect, right? And we'll see a little bit of this as we go through. And this sort of really efficiently costed simple level 3 design is something that's sort of new and cool that JoJo sort of started. It doesn't leave you a whole lot of options, but it makes the options that you do have very resource efficient and very, very powerful. So those are some things to keep in mind as we go through this set. So here's my top 10 cards. Number 10, we have He Who Sinks Into the Ground, Sekko, and Sanctuary. So this is a 2/2, which immediately indicative of, oops, there's a standby, right? If you have 2 or more other Golden Wind characters, it gains 2,000 power, so it's a 2/2 95, which is smaller than most standby targets that you're going to be looking at in other sets. We're usually looking for 10/5 with Encore or 11,000 power. But for good reason, he also has a Climax combo. When this card attacks, if Chocolata and Sekko is in your Climax area, you may choose 3 characters in your waiting room and return them to your hand. If you do, choose 3 cards in your hand and put them into your waiting room. So he does not plus, but salvage 3, discard 3 on attack lets you hand fix very nicely. And with this Chocolata and green tea that we've got here, the little 0. So this card is on play, look at top card of your deck, put it on top of your deck or into your waiting room. pretty standard effect on like standby support level zeros to help you get standby targets into your waiting room or sort of dig into triggering standbys. And it also has a climax combo. When this same standby is placed on your climax area, you can pay 1 and return him to your hand to stand one of your other Golden Wind characters. Which means we can bring this 2/2 out at level 1 and attack with it the same turn. So this sort of takes the place of our level 1 combo. Right, we get a 2 Soul Beater that's 95, which is still bigger than most things at level 1, so we're fine with it being a little smaller, given it gets to attack earlier. And that's going to let us hand fix into the rest of our level 1 game going into level 2. And some of the things you might get there are some backups, right? Standby decks are really good at winning board, so if this guy's going to win his lane on his own, you can get a backup to help you win one of your other lanes. It has good synergy with the 1/0 Squallow. It's once per turn when you use an act ability, which includes backups, right? It gets auto when this card's battle opponent becomes reversed. You may put the top card of your deck into your stock. So now you can start like salvaging these backups to win board with Squallow, and the Squallow gets you more stock. And you can just keep going from there and try to take over both board and resource generation, and just always hand fix into exactly the characters you need. And it can let you get early plays and all that as well. This also plays nicely into the one of the level 1 combos in the set, which is Pesci. It salvages a specific level 3, but only that level 3, and since they can start to clog your hand, you can use this combo alongside the Pesci combo to discard those level 3s and turn them into more relevant characters that you might need. And that's one of the big sort of combo lineups Japan played for a while, just because of the neat synergy there. At number 9, I have 10 Hours Ago Colo. So this is a utility 0. It has Act, pay 1, rest this card, look it up to 2 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 level 1 or higher card from among them, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, and put the rest into the waiting room. And then its second effect is Act, put 1 card from your hand into your waiting room, and put this card into your waiting room to choose a Golden Wind character in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So this card has 2 effects. The first one, a pay 1, rest itself to plus. Reminiscent of Ambush Union, not nearly as good as Ambush Union. You're going to miss a little more often. You don't have as much selection. But it is a pay 1, rest itself to plus that can get you cards, which, if you play it with, you can play it with the Secco combo that I just showed to turn those cards into whatever you want. Or you can just play, high level 1 and higher counts, which also synergizes with standby in order to hit more often, and just sort of use that to build advantage throughout a game. The other effect, the most common place you'll see it is on the Ram bomb from ReZero. It's a level 0 bomb, commonly used to hand fix in that deck, which goes over hand size or sits at hand size quite often. You don't really care that you're taking a -1, just to get selectivity, guarantee anti-change counters and stuff like that. And Paracolo can sort of do the same thing. I don't think JoJo's is quite as strong on hand advantage, but you can use both of these effects in the same turn even, right? So you can pay 1, rest him, add a card, and then just pitch that card and sack him to get anything else. This plays really nicely with standby, since it clears a slot on your board in your backstage. If you want to play a standby and standby over him after you've used his effect, you can just sack him off to grab anything you want. And it creates just a really fluid sort of board state, especially if you're playing on standbying to backstage anyway, if you don't have the Chocolata combo to keep your guy standing. So I really like this card, just for the utility he gives all around, plussing you, and then making sure you always have the exact cards you need. At number 8, I have Ariel Hunter Narancha. So this is one of the level 3s that I was kind of talking about earlier, where his on-play effect is, when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, put the top 5 cards of your deck into your waiting room and deal X damage to your opponent. X is equal to the number of Climax among those cards. So that is pretty much Ronco's Climax combo effect from Idolmaster Cinderella Girls, except this time it's on play and not tied to a Climax, which makes it very useful Main phase damage is always good because you know how much you need to deal going into your attack phase and can modify your soul counts appropriately. But also not needing a climax means this card is super splashable. And it has some more synergies that we can talk about here with Remnant the Turtle. So this is a card that I believe the only other printing in English is in Kill la Kill, called Classic Trap, where it's a 2/0 event counter. Choose one of your characters, return it to your hand. This is mainly used to, like in Kill la Kill, they'll use it to recycle their Musashi, since it cancel burns the turn that it came into play. So you can play it, cancel burn, swing, and then when your opponent attacks it, bounce it back to your hand, play it again to go for a second turn of finisher push. You can do the same thing with Narancia. You can play him, deal damage to your opponent, swing, and if they try to kill him again, you just play Remnant the Turtle, bounce him back to your hand, and you get to play him in Mill 5 to deal damage again. It's also neat because since this is an event, you can main phase it. So you can like play Narancia, bounce him back to your hand during your main phase, and play him again immediately, just to try to push damage over and over again. You can effectively look at it like pay 2, ditch 1, act, like Mill 5, to potentially deal more damage to your opponent, which makes for a pretty strong, like splashable, non-climax reliant finisher. His other effect is Act, pay 1, choose a character in your opponent's center stage, and it gets minus 1,000 until end of turn. Not super relevant, but it can help some of the other characters in the set that do either need to reverse or need to frontal attack or just live, sort of get over their lanes if you have a little bit of extra stock to put into it. You can see Golden Wind has to frontal attack. It doesn't really matter if he dies or not, but having him live is usually a pretty good thing. Emperor Crimson has an effect on your opponent's turn, so you need that to live through your attack phase, so minus powering your opponent so that you can frontal attack profitably is really good. And the Fugo just actually needs to reverse, so minus power helps him get reverses more often. And this, since it doesn't need a combo, can slot into pretty much any other top end, and just help you get those reverses that you need. Number 7, I have Beacon Dispelling the Darkness, Bushiroad. So this is a 0/0. This is one of the cards I was showing at the beginning where it summons its standout. I think this is probably the best one in the set. As far as the actual card itself, I think some of the other ones summon better targets, but this package as a whole is pretty solid. So he's on play, you get to search your deck for the one who opens Zipperman, and put it face up underneath this card as a marker, and then shuffle your deck. So that's already one thing that's pretty unique. I think only 2 of them in the whole set search your deck for their target, instead of choosing it from Waiting Room. Which at level 0 is going to be a lot better, and it's going to get you first deck compression. Being able to just play this guy and remove a damage from your deck for free is pretty nice, and it helps set up guaranteed attackers for level 1. Second effect is discard 1 character. If you're level 1 or higher, you get to choose the Zipperman under him, put it on your stage, and at the end of the turn you may put it back under him as a marker. And then Act, you can rest him to choose one of your Golden Wind characters, and give it 1,000 power. So the Zipperman that he summons is a Shimakaze Kai clone. It's on attack, you choose one of your other Golden Wind characters, and it gets plus X until end of turn. X is 500 times the number of other Golden Wind characters you have, so 2,000 on a full board. It's pretty relevant because you can use this to summon out the Shimakai to pump level 1 combos that have to reverse, or the Squallow that can give you stock, or even just level 3s to help win board, so they can live into your opponent's turn or get reverses that they need. And the Bushiroad himself also plays into this pretty well, since you can rest him to give power, and the Zipperman is going to be giving power. That's 3,000 power that you can pump into your board every turn. And resting him, or summoning the Zipperman, both trigger Squallow's Act ability to get the stock charge. So it's a really neat, just sort of synergistic package there, where you get to put a lot of power into your board. And that's something that a lot of sets don't really have as much access to at level 1. And we're moving into sort of a meta where a field-based level 1, even outside of standby decks, like decks that just want to win board at level 1, like Goblin Slayer, this helps you break through those walls and stay relevant on board. The last thing is that since the Zipperman can return back under Bushiroad at the end of the turn, as long as he lives, you can use that to clear spaces and clear lanes so that you don't give up reverses to your opponent. You can use the Zipperman in conjunction with like either crashing one lane or using like the coin flip or the pseudo runner that the set has, and you can deny reverses against your opponent, which is a little harder to do at level 1 since you are trying to tri-field, but it helps you just clear lanes and you can beat out some of your opponent's strategies, make it a little harder on them. So that's one nice last thing about the Zipperman here. At number 6, I have Erased World Emperor Crimson. So this is one of the main level 3s of the set. It's the main red level 3. So on play, from your hand or by the act effect of Pride of a King Diavolo, you may put the top card of your clock into your waiting room, so that's a heal. Pride of a King Diavolo is another one of these stand summoning cards. It's a continuous assist. All your level 3 or higher characters in front of it get plus 2,000, so that will buff the Emperor Crimson. On play, you can choose the Emperor Crimson from Waiting Room and marker it. And then act, pay 2, discard a... it says a card. This is inconsistent with the Japanese text. The original Japanese print requires you to discard a character. So I assume that we'll be getting an errata at some point. So pay 2, discard a character. If you're level 3 or higher, you get to summon out the Emperor Crimson, and just like with the rest, you can return it under him as a marker at end of turn. The other effect on the Emperor Crimson is auto. When this card is frontal attacked, pay 4, put 3 Golden Wind characters from your hand into your waiting room. If you do, terminate the attack and proceed to the next attack declaration step. So that's going to skip the trigger, counter, damage, and battle step. So this is similar to like an anti-damage counter. It's just a lot higher cost. It's like an extra stock and 2 extra cards out of hand. But in addition to stopping damage, your opponent doesn't get the stock from triggering, and there's no battle step, so your Emperor Crimson's guaranteed to live. So for the additional 1 stock and 2 hand, you're draining your opponent a stock, and essentially encoring this guy, right? So that is pretty solid. It is a little cost heavy, and it's very difficult to resolve multiple Emperor Crimson, but it can be a game-winning effect, especially in conjunction with his heal. And since this set does have 2 standbys, and the standbys have a lot of synergy with other cards in the set, you can use this guy with standby, and instead of having to attack and like play him and attack into your opponent, if you just trigger a standby, you can summon this guy in, and now you didn't have to pay 2 stock for him, and he doesn't have to win battle in his lane to stay on board for your opponent's turn. You just sort of got him there for free. It makes it a lot easier to do the pay 4 discard 3, and makes it definitely more feasible to double Emperor Crimson at some point. At number 5, we have Final Form Golden Wind Requiem. So this is another stand. Auto, when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, or by the act ability of the one chosen by Fate Giorno, you may discard 1, put the top card of your clock into your stock. So this is another healer, and again, it does heal when it comes out from the guy that markers it. The Giorno is a 1/1. All your Golden Wind characters in front of this get 500 power and Encore for 2 stock. So this one's going to be relevant a little earlier in the game, unlike the Diavolo. It has the same marker effect from Waiting Room, and the exact same effect to summon it, where you pay to discard a character, summon the Golden Wind Requiem if you're level 3 or higher, and you can put him back as a marker at end of turn. So this just makes it... This gives you another way to get access to the Golden Wind Requiem, and you can do it early, right? So you can play this level 1 at level 1 to pump your characters and give them Encore, and just sort of marker the Golden Wind Requiem and sit on it as a little bit of compression, and also less sculpting that you have to do throughout the game. You no longer need this copy of your finisher in your hand, because you just always have it. And while it's not actually an additional card in your hand, because you do have to discard 1 to summon it, it is it's less, it's 1 fewer specific card you need in your hand. And then this one, it does have a Climax combo. When this frontal attacks, if the world's truth, This card did actually get errated because the Climax name doesn't match its effect, and this errata is already in effect. If the World's Truth is in your Climax area, this card gets the following ability until end of turn. Auto, at the beginning of your Encore step, you may pay 3. If you do, perform the following action 2 times. Deal 1 damage to your opponent. So you have to frontal with him. Sort of the biggest drawback to the card. It's honestly a pretty huge drawback, but the set does have some ways to play around it and make it a little more doable. You get to... so 2 copies of him is going to be like 5 stock, because they only cost 1 stock each. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hand. Which is pretty reasonable, because you need to play 2 of them, play the Climax, and discard the 2 for the heals. And you get effectively double Mikasa. Your frontal attack makes your frontal attack with a 1k1 makes your numbers a little less controllable in the actual attack. But you do get deal 1, which is, it's Coco Achino, it's Mikasa, it's I don't know what else does deal 1 in English right now. There's not a whole lot, honestly. Deal 1 is a pretty good effect. And it can definitely kill people, and since it heals, that's just sort of icing on top. The big thing you have to worry about is frontal attacking, since there are a lot of ways that your opponent might be able to stop this. Either like something like Rider that prevents you from frontal attacking, or if they back up over you being reversed, you'll still get the effect off. But if they have a backup that like sends you to memory or something, that can be a pretty big problem for you. Or if they just have an anti-damage counter and can prevent your damage altogether. Those are the biggest things you have to watch out for. However, with the whole the stand thing, being able to pull back as markers it does give you a way to guarantee things to frontal attack into, so your opponent can't crash their board as easily. And there's a level 3 Trish in this set that I don't think I put on one of these slides, but it's on play. You get to choose one of your opponent's characters, and they can't play backups during that card's battle, so that can help you a little bit in protecting this frontal attack. At number 4, I have Noble Resolutions Bushiroad. So this is a level 1 combo. It's actually a level 1 combo that we've seen a couple times recently, but has never, or maybe not recently, but we've seen a couple times throughout English, but didn't make my top 10 list last time we got one. I think there's a couple things different in this set that make it sort of a little more of a standout card. So it combos with a draw trigger, which is a plus in Climax, unlike the last one we got. But so on play, he gains 1500, and the Climax is a 1k1, so that's 7000 already. The Climax combo is on reverse. Look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose a Golden Wind character, reveal it, put it into hand, put the rest in waiting room, and then you choose a character and give it 2000 power. So the initial copy is only going to be 7000, but the following copies will be 9000 each, or you can do 7000, 7000, 11000. And in a set with as many other power boosts as we have, right, you can use the 0-0 Bushiroad that I showed that can rest to give 1000, so that can make your first copy 8000. And if you play like 2 of these and stand out a Zipper Man, then all of a sudden you're attacking for like 10,000 and 9,000, or you can attack for like 9,000 and 10,000. Like you can make your numbers really huge, and I think that's really relevant nowadays. The 2 other big sets that have this effect are Cinderella Girls had the original Minami, or at least the one that the effect is named after. And then Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel back in December had this, but it was not on a plus in Climax. And that set generally just had better things to be doing anyway with the whole treasure package, so it kind of got glossed over. But in this set, with all the like power focus we have, we can use this pretty handily to clear boards, especially against wall decks, and still maintain card advantage with a plussing trigger. So overall, I think that makes this card just a really solid package that shines a little more than it would in other sets. You can see like Standby Sword Art's still a big deck. Goblin Slayer with the Priestess Globals like really wants to win board at level 1. And with this combo, you can threaten these things pretty easily and force your opponent into situations that are a little worse than they'd like to be in. At number 3, I have Remnant of the Past, Diavolo. So this is the level 3 Diavolo. First effect is continuous. If this card is in your center stage, all of your Golden Wind characters get plus 1500. That does include himself, which makes him a prime standby target. Since if you can bring him out at level 2, he's a global 15 to your board. And, spoiler alert, he does actually combo with a standby. So his Climax combo is when he's placed on the stage from the effect of Eternal Ruler, you may pay 2, discard 2, stand to this card. So you're not really going to want to be using this to like play the standby from hand and summon him out, and then stand him, because that's really expensive. It's pay 2, discard 2, and playing a Climax just to attack with him. But if you trigger his Climax and get to standby him off of it, you get a 4th attack, essentially, for pay 2, discard 2, which is a pretty reasonable restand cost. And you can start doing this as early as level 2, which also pumps your board, or you can use this at level 3. Just because of the number of like Climaxless finishers in the set, you can play this instead of like a level 3 Climax and get still good access to finishing power, where you can play something like the Narancha 3-2, or any of the other finishers in the set that don't need a Climax, and if you ever trigger this standby, all of a sudden you have another attack for not much cost, really. So that it makes this card just really powerful, and in the standby decks, you can just play the other standby from hand, or even play his own standby from hand, and just summon him down and not stand him. Though you don't really want to, he does have to be in your center stage to get his effect, so shrug, that's not very good, but like even if you trigger the wrong standby, right, you can summon him down, you don't get to stand him, but he's still a global 15 to your board. And at level 3, with some of the other characters that these decks are going to be playing, the Fugo level 3 does need to reverse, so the 1500 is relevant. If you're playing this with like Emperor Crimson, he needs to live through offense so that he can be on the stage for the opponent's turn. The plus 1500 gets you there. And you see that with a lot of these cards, right? Like, this set can generate a lot of power on board. It has ways to plus its own power and subtract from the opponent's power. And together it gives you a lot of just control over the board, an ability to win board where a lot of decks wouldn't. And it's a finisher, and you don't have to draw the Climax for it to be a finisher. Number 2, we have Soul's Will Bushiroad. So the Bushiroad level 3 is an early play for 2 or fewer Climax, and it does heal on play. And then its last effect is similar to Encore, but not quite. During your opponent's turn, when this card becomes reversed in battle, you may discard 1. If you do, rest this card, and at the beginning of your next Encore step, put this card into your waiting room. So he Encores himself, but only for 1 turn, and then he just dies. So it's similar to your typical 2 or less Climax early play. Instead of a power effect, it does have pseudo Encore, so it's kind of like the Ran, which Ran is a very good early play in Bang Dream right now, due to just staying power. You can play this guy, heal, swing, and if your opponent kills him on their turn, you get to pitch any card in your hand for a 2-soul beater, essentially. You can even pitch Climaxes and stuff like that. So he is an early play healer that's swinging for 2-soul and can stick around and stay 2-soul, basically. Which is a lot better than a lot of early plays right now, honestly. Some sets do have really good ones, but a lot of these early plays that just come down and heal end up dying pretty quickly. And Bushiroad makes sure you get a decent bit of value out of him. He also, to a lesser extent, can deny some like finishers. Any of the like Fever or Joker-esque effects where they need your opponent's front row to be empty or reversed. Since this guy's effect triggers when he gets reversed, he actually will be rested when they check for this, and they won't be able to get their effect. Also good against something like Kashima, where your opponent is counting the number of reversed characters you have. He's only going to stay reversed like 1 at a time. So they have to sort of order their attacks in a way to reverse him last, or if you have multiples, they just can't can't do it in a way where they keep more than one reversed at a time. So he's decent at shutting off stuff like this too, though that's definitely more of a minor part of his effect. At number 1, we actually have a Climax, just because I think this entire Climax combo package, which is pretty big, all needs to be run together in order to be good. But Grand Death is my number 1 card for the set. It is a treasure Climax. It combos with both this 1-0 and this 3-2. So the 1-0 here, Grand Teachings, Pesci, and Fisherman. It's a 104k, it cannot side attack. It gets plus 1500 power for each Grand Teachings prosciutto in your memory. So that's going to be the leftmost 1035 there. And which the 1035 also gains 2000 power for each copy of himself in memory. And when he becomes reversed in battle, if you have 2 or less cards in memory, you may put him into your memory. So as they die, they get stronger and they make your Pescis stronger. So two prosciuttos in memory means you're going to have 7500 power prosciuttos and 7000 power Pescis, which is pretty good for level 1s. And then we also have Mamoni, Pesci, and Fisherman, which is unfortunately another card that needs errata. The first effect is fine. It's on play, you mill 2 if there's a level 0 or lower character. He does not lose soul by side attacking during that turn. It's fine, not super relevant. It gives you mill though, which can put your prosciuttos in waiting room, which does help his second effect. So it currently says when this card is placed on the stage. It should be when this card is put into your waiting room for the stage, so it should be on death. If you have 2 or less memory, you can choose the 1-0 prosciutto from your waiting room and put it into your memory. So this gives you a way to get the prosciuttos into memory before level 1, and without having to crash them. And then the last effect on the Pesci is the Climax combo itself. When he reverses battle opponent, you can put the top card of your deck into your stock, and then you choose a Significance of Resolution, Prosciutto, and Thankful Death in your waiting room, and return it to your hand. That's going to be the level 3. So he gets to add the level 3 to hand, which is pretty neat, and he gets a stock. We've seen a couple of effects like this in English. The Krista probably being the bigger one. On reverse, you stock one and then add an omnidirectional mobility gear to hand. And the Steph, which got to add a Key of Hope to hand. There's also the big one in Japanese is the Megumin 1-0 for Konosuba, where it gets to stock one and then add the level 3 Megumin Resonate target to your hand from waiting room, which we still haven't gotten in English yet, but that's sort of the go-to that everyone usually thinks of when they think of this type of effect. And that card's been quite good and seen quite a lot of play in Japanese. Now the level 3, Significance of Resolution, Prosciutto, and Thankful Death, also needs an errata. This one just doesn't actually make sense without the errata. It says all characters on your opponent's characters get -X power until end of turn. Should say on your opponent's stage. So that's the first effect. Once this card is placed on the stage from your hand, all characters on your opponent's stage get -X power until end of turn. X is equal to that character's level times 1000. So your opponent's level 3s are going to get -3000 power, all of them, just by playing this guy. Which is kind of wild. And then his Climax combo with this same Climax is on attack, pay 2, discard 2, deal 4, and then you choose one of your opponent's characters and you get -3000 again. So this guy is doing a lot of minus power. If you play 3 copies of this guy, that's -9k to all your opponent's level 3s. That's huge. The Climax combo itself is similar to Xenon, which is a card that's seen a lot of play and been quite good on its own. Those Xenon heals this guy minus powers, so it's a little different. This guy does require an additional discard, but he's a part of a sort of bigger package, right? The minus power stuff is generally costed a little higher anyway, so it's kind of acceptable there. But Xenon, I think Xenon's the big sort of comparison. The minus power, things that can do, there's a lot of stuff it can do, right? Say you're playing against Bunny Girl Senpai. Your opponent has Futaba set up with great performance. She's like 17,000, right? You play 3 prosciuttos. Minus 9,000 makes her 85. I'm sorry, she's not 17. Normally, 2 assists, she's 16.5, right? Yeah, 2 assists, she's 16.5. You played 3 prosciuttos, now she's 7,500. Also, the minus 9,000 killed both the assists. So that's another minus 4k. So now she's like 3,500. You can sneeze on her and she gets reversed at this point. If you really need to, you can attack and minus 3,000 her again, though unfortunately it doesn't kill her at that point. But your first attack is going to reverse her, which is going to get rid of great performance, and you just blasted all your opponent's Kogas off the stage, which is pretty neat. Against Goblin Slayer, if they have the Witch that lets them scry when they take damage. Also, it's a 2k assist. 2 prosciuttos, all you need. Puts that thing down to negative 1,500. Even if your opponent has like Witch with the Priestess Global, it's only 55, so you put it to negative 500 with 2 prosciuttos. So like, you get to remove the Witch, which means now they don't get to scry, and now you don't have to worry about their bounce counter because they don't have 5 characters on stage, which is just super good. And in the situation where they encore their Witch, because it's that important to them, if you play a 3rd prosciutto, it goes down to 1,500, and then as soon as you attack and use a combo, you kill it again, and they don't get to counter yet again, which is super cool. Like, this card just demolishes anything that cares about a board. Also, 3 copies of this kills Armin, because it doesn't target on the first effect. It just does it to all your opponent's characters. So you can kill Armin, which then means your opponent's Mikasas lose hexproof or whatever else they had on stage, which means you can actually just board wipe AOT. They can't even like mobility gear to save themselves because you just choose their their Mikasas and blow them up at that point. So if you live against AOT, it makes it a lot harder for their second turn to sort of finish you off. Yeah, the card's just really wild. It's really solid against field-based decks. The one unfortunate thing is that a lot of the minus soul decks, their characters are bigger than the 9,000 that you're going to get to subtract off of them. So unless you're really looking to play 4 prosciuttos from a hand, you can't really deal with minus soul. But at the same time, the minus soul decks, like, usually aren't minus 3 souling your board, so now you just burn 4, swing 1, and you get to blow up whatever back row they had. And you're definitely running over their minus soul guys, because you at least like probably minus 9,000 them. So prosciutto just demolishes boards. Like that's it. He demolishes boards, and also gets to deal some damage. So this whole package, I think, is just really powerful. And the nice thing is, this is all in one Climax, right? So even if you don't think Xenon Effect is like the best top end that you want, you don't have to play it. You can just play the prosciuttos as salvage targets, and then play something like the Colo that I showed at the beginning, right? To discard the prosciuttos and grab whatever else you want. You can play like another finisher combo alongside this. And even use like, play the prosciutto to blow up a backstage, and then also do your other combo. Or play the prosciutto just to make your opponent's board weak enough that your golden winds can attack and do their combo, and not worry about like counters memory kicking them or whatever, right? So it's just really, really neat synergies. Really, I can't say slot efficient because the package is huge. Like it's 2 different level 1s, the level 0, the level 3, and the Climax. But it's 2 combos on one Climax, which opens up a lot of possibilities for the rest of the deck. I think that's just really powerful for this deck to have. So here's a recap on my top 10 cards. Lots of red and blue, not so much green, not so much yellow. Though the green stuff does, like I said, sort of all come as one package. Yellow is just, I don't know. Yellow's not bad in this set, but it kind of lost out on my top 10 a little bit. Bushiroad was the winner here today. But yeah. So that's my top 10. As far as tier list, here's updated tier list. I have well, so first I'll talk about JoJo, right? JoJo I have in B tier. I think that the level threes are a little watered down. I don't think any of them do quite enough to sort of compete against the top ends of other decks. Even if the deck has like fine level 0 and 1 game, those level 0 and 1 aren't enough to sort of push the deck over, and it doesn't have the level 3s to carry it either. So I think the deck is a solid package. Like, I think anyone can take any of these B tier decks into a tournament, and as long as you know your deck and know your matchups, like, you can pilot these decks and to success, right? Like, Apocrypha wins regionals like every season, at least once, or at least tops regionals, right? Batman Ninja had plenty of tops last season. Cardcaptor got 4th at Worlds. Gurren Lagann shows up. Kontai shows up. Persona shows up. Like, these decks still show up in tops all the time. And I think JoJo definitely has the potential to do that. And I think there are enough just like wacky out there effects that have very like niche meta uses that if someone figures out the right combination of JoJo cards, like, it's very possible that this could be an A tier deck. I don't think it's like blatantly there. And I think it just has a little bit of power level issue with not being able to do quite enough. But again, it's a solid package, and it's definitely, if you take the time to learn it and learn your matchups, a deck that you can take to a tournament and compete with. The other change on here, I have Konosuba in A+ again now. Mainly because a lot of the recent sets coming out, or that have come out, right, like Fate and Fate and Goblin Slayer, mainly, but also JoJo now, right? I think JoJo. So Fate obviously has Rider, Goblin Slayer has Priestess. These things make it hard for characters that want to attack. Megumin and Konosuba doesn't have to attack. JoJo also has Emperor Crimson, which is I think JoJo is going to be very popular because of the IP. I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards at least playing a little bit of Emperor Crimson because of how powerful his effect is. And I think Megumin being able to completely ignore that against all those decks, right? It ignores Minus Soul, it ignores Rider, it ignores Emperor Crimson, it ignores Futaba, it ignores most things in the game right now, right? I think that just makes it. I think it's worth putting back in A+. So yeah, that's the other change I made. But yeah, so for those of you that want to play JoJo's, do it. Absolutely do it. The set has the potential. The set has unique mechanics that you're not going to find in other sets. It has unique mechanics that your opponents aren't going to know about. You're going to win a lot of games just off your opponent having no idea what your cards do, because JoJo cards are so weird. And it looks like a super fun deck to play. So I'm all for it. I love this set. I think it's really well made. So thank you guys for watching. Check me out on Twitter. Check out the Facebook global community. Check out both of these Discords. They've got plenty of players, always want to talk about the game. And now that the whole coronavirus thing is an issue, tons of people playing on Tabletop Simulator and over Discord all the time. And check out my store on TCG Player. We have JoJo cards up listed today. I assume now that the set's out, they should be showing up publicly. So yeah, check us out on TCG Player. We got plenty of all the cards in the set. So yep, I will see you guys next time with some deck lists.